Imagine a power so vast that it responds to everything you feel, but remains silent in the face of everything you say. An invisible power that shapes realities not through words, but through the vibrations that emanate from your inner silence. In the early years of the 20th century, when the world was still trying to understand the limits of the human mind, one woman was ahead of her time, Genevieve Behrend, a direct disciple of the enigmatic Thomas Troward. She discovered something that few dared to teach, that talking too much about your desires is actually one of the most subtle ways to push them away. Genevieve believed that the true act of manifestation does not happen in words, but in the silent space between thoughts, where the mind and the universe recognize each other as one. While the world talked about asking, praying, and declaring, she taught, "Don't tell the universe what you want. Feel it as already accomplished, and the universe will respond to your silence." Today, you will understand why the most powerful force of creation is born when you are silent, and listen to the echo of what already exists within you. And if you feel that there is something deeper in the way reality responds to your thoughts, then sign up and walk with me. Because Genevieve Behrend's words can completely transform the way you manifest the impossible. Silence, the language of creation. There is a mystery that most people have never understood. The universe does not hear your words, it listens to your vibration. When Genevieve Behrend spoke about manifestation, she was not referring to magic formulas or mechanical repetitions of phrases. She spoke of a state of consciousness, an alignment so subtle that it can only be perceived when the mind is completely still. Silence, for Genevieve, was not the absence of sound. It was a vibrant field of power, where all creation begins. There, the human mind touches the invisible fabric of the universe, and in that touch, the invisible begins to move. She said that when you talk about your desire, you project it outside yourself, but when you remain silent, feeling the truth of what has already been accomplished, you anchor it within the creative field. Silence is, therefore, the native language of the universe, the language that precedes all words. The ancient masters understood this. That is why temples have always been places of quietude. Before prayer, there was contemplation. Before the word, reverence for mystery. Genevieve simply translated for her time what the ancients already knew. When silent, the mind speaks directly to the universal mind. In this inner space, desire ceases to be a request and becomes a remembrance, a memory of what is already true on another plane. And when the vibration of remembrance is strong enough, the physical world bends to reflect that certainty, and the universe doesn't need you to say what you want. It needs to feel who you are when you believe you already have it. That is the sound of silence. That is the echo of creation. Genevieve Behrend, the woman who talked to the invisible. Imagine the early 20th century. The world was still powered by steam, and science sought to understand only what could be measured. But in the midst of this era of concrete and reason, a woman emerged who dared to say, "The mind creates everything we see." Genevieve Behrend was not just a student. She was a visionary of the invisible, a direct disciple of Thomas Troward, the great philosopher of the creative mind. She was the only student personally accepted by him, a fact that, in itself, reveals her inner strength and unique destiny. Genevieve believed that thought is living substance and that the universe is a malleable mind, ready to respond to those who know how to direct their focus with faith and silence. While many sought external signs, she delved into the invisible layers of human consciousness, where thought transforms into form and the invisible becomes matter. She lived what she taught. Before meeting her master, she intensely visualized that she would study with him, even though she had no money or means to get there. For weeks, she kept this image so vivid in her mind that fate itself bowed to her determination. Shortly thereafter, she manifested the exact amount of $20,000, enough to travel from Scotland to England and begin her studies. She didn't just talk about manifestation, she lived it. She transformed her life into a silent testimony to the creative power of the mind. After completing her education, she devoted herself to teaching the same principle that had guided her. You are the invisible cause behind everything you experience. Her books, such as Your Invisible Power and Attaining Your Desires, are more than words, they are manuals for the soul, portals that reveal how the universe really operates. Genevieve left the physical world in 1960, but her presence never dissipated. Her ideas continue to move through the ages, whispering to awakened minds that true power lies in inner silence. Today, every time someone closes their eyes to imagine, believe, and trust, Genevieve's voice echoes in the invisible, reminding us that creation begins where fear ends. Why does speaking weaken desire? Few understand the true power of words. Words are like seeds. When sown before their time, they do not blossom. They are simply lost in the wind of dispersion. Genevieve Behrend taught that every desire is sacred as long as it remains in inner silence. In this state, it is still connected to its source, pure, intact, vibrating in harmony with the creative field. But when you reveal it in words, it fragments. The energy that should feed the invisible form begins to spread throughout the outside world. She said that talking too much is like opening the cocoon before the butterfly is born. The process of inner creation is delicate. Before something exists outside, it must mature inside, in vibration, in certainty, in silent faith. Every time you comment on your desire, explain it, justify it, or seek approval, you surrender it to the judgment of others, and the universe responds to your doubt, not your dream. The collective mind, full of fear and disbelief, infiltrates your vibration and distorts it. Silence, on the other hand, preserves the purity of intention. It creates a vibrational chamber where thought becomes substance. In this space, the invisible begins to acquire density, until the physical world has no choice but to mirror what has already been created in the mind. Ancient wisdom said, "The magician speaks little, because words expend the force that should move the invisible." Genevieve understood this scientifically and spiritually. For her, speech is the outward movement of energy, and all externalized energy loses intensity on the inner plane. Therefore, keeping your desire silent is not repression, it is alchemy. You keep it burning inside until it is ready to be born as reality. To speak is to try to convince the world. To remain silent is to convince the universe. Vibrational alignment. The state where desire becomes real. There is a point, invisible to human eyes, where thought ceases to be just thought and becomes living substance. Genevieve Behrend called this point the zone of harmony. Between the individual mind and the universal mind, it is in this state that all manifestation begins. To reach it, you need more than just wanting something. You need to feel at one with what you desire. As long as desire is perceived as something distant, the universe will keep it distant. But when you feel it as already existing, it begins to vibrate within you, and reality responds with the corresponding reflection. Genevieve said that the mind is a mirror, and the universe is only the reflection of what the mirror contains. Therefore, true creation does not begin with words or requests, but with a silent communion with the mental image. You enter into it, you breathe within it, and you remain in it until the difference between imagining and possessing disappears completely. In this state, emotion becomes the language of the soul, and it is through it that you speak to the invisible field that creates everything. What you feel deeply, the universe translates into form. There is no effort, no struggle, no doubt. The conscious mind quiets down, and the subconscious, the bridge between the human and the divine, receives the new instruction as an absolute decree. It is in this moment of vibrational harmony that the invisible begins to move in your favor. The secret is not to ask. It is to vibrate. It is not to desire strongly, but to feel with silent faith. Because the universe does not respond to words, it responds to frequency. And when your frequency is that of certainty, nothing can prevent your desire from manifesting. The mystery of the silent space, where the invisible begins to respond. Genevieve Behrend said that there is a sacred moment, a pause between thinking and receiving, where the power of creation truly manifests itself. She called this moment the silent space of spirit. It is in this interval that the invisible awakens. When thought quiets, the universal creative field listens. It is as if the universe needs inner silence to recognize the command of the soul. Most people never access this space because their minds are full of noise, fear, haste, doubt. But power is not born in noise. Power is born in conscious emptiness, where the human self dissolves for a moment, and the higher self takes command. In this silence there is no time, there is no I want. There is only presence, a pure vibration without form, which contains within itself all possibilities. That is where desire ceases to be an idea and becomes living energy. Genevieve said that silence is the cradle of all forms, and when the seeker learns to inhabit this silence, he discovers something extraordinary. It is not desire that needs to be pursued, it is the seeker himself who needs to become the clear channel through which desire can flow. Nothing needs to be forced, nothing needs to be repeated 1,000 times. The universe, like a divine mirror, only reflects the state in which you dwell. Therefore, the quieter you are, the more aligned you are. The more present you are, the more creative you are. And it is within this space that the exercise you are about to learn should be practiced. Because it is there, between sound and silence, that reality begins to bow to awakened consciousness. The Sacred Secret, from Manifestation by Genevieve Behrend. Few understood what Genevieve called the sacred rule of silence. She claimed that the true power of manifestation is never revealed in words, but protected in the inner temple of the mind. According to her, every thought of desire is a living seed, and like every seed, it needs darkness and silence to germinate. If you expose this seed to the wind of opinions, doubts, and the voices of others, it loses its vital force. Genevieve said, "What is sacred must remain secret until it is ready to blossom." And her secret was simple but profound. Never verbalize your desire before it takes shape, because sound is vibration, and all vibration interferes with the creative field. When you speak, you disperse energy. But when you are silent, you condense power, and the universe begins to respond. She taught that true manifestation is born of silent confidence, a faith that needs no proof. It is the certainty that the invisible has already begun to move. It is the power of those who know, without needing to say. The sacred rule is not about hiding from others. It is about protecting the creative force within oneself, until it is strong enough to become visible. Just as an artist keeps their unfinished work away from the eyes of the world, the manifester protects their dream while it comes to life in the invisible dimensions. And that is why Genevieve warned, when you speak, you surrender command of the invisible. When you are silent, you reign over it. The path of creative silence. Genevieve said that everything that exists was first shaped in silence. Before sound, there was space. Before form, there was the idea. And before manifestation, there is always a moment of absolute stillness, where the creator contemplates and creates. For her, silence is not the absence of sound. It is the pure presence of power. She taught that those who wish to manifest must learn to silence the noise of the mind, because it is in silence that the universe whispers instructions. And this silence is not empty. It is full of intelligent energy, awaiting direction. The path of creative silence is not an ordinary exercise. It is a practice of reconnection with the invisible field where everything is possible. And Genevieve taught this process in 3 stages. Simple but profoundly transformative. Withdrawal from the world, disconnect from everything for a few minutes, not just from external noise, but from internal demands, from wanting, expecting, fearing. Genevieve believed that the first step is to turn completely inward, where true power resides. She said, "Silence is the place where the self and the infinite meet." Sit comfortably, breathe deeply, and allow each thought to dissolve like mist. Don't fight them. Just observe until only stillness remains. The living image. Now, in the space of silence, form the image of what you desire, but effortlessly, without asking. See it as something already existing, complete, vibrating in a parallel reality. Genevieve called this the mental screen of creation. Imagine the scene not as if you were observing from the outside, but as if you were already inside it. Feel the atmosphere, the emotions, the quiet certainty that it is real, and then be silent again. Let the image rest in the subconscious, like a seed enveloped in light. The seal of silence. This is the most sacred point. After creating the mental image, don't tell anyone, don't speak, don't question, don't look for immediate signs, just live in harmony, with the certainty that the invisible has already begun to work. Genevieve said that the universe acts when the mind ceases to interfere. That is why she called this state creative silence, the state in which thought, feeling, and divine power unite in a single flow. It is here that manifestation happens, not by effort but by resonance. You don't need to tell the universe what you want. You need to become what you desire in silence, and so, the practitioner becomes the very channel of the invisible, a being who doesn't need to prove or convince, because reality has already been shaped on the subtle plane. Genevieve claimed that when you maintain silence after visualizing, the energy remains pure, undistorted, and therefore more powerful. It's the secret that transforms desire into form, without struggle, without haste, without noise. This is Genevieve's sacred practice, the path of creative silence, an alchemy between thought, faith, and silence. The point where the human mind touches the divine, and the invisible begins to move. The voice of the invisible, the signs that the universe is responding after silence. Something begins to happen, not explosively, not immediately, but subtly, like the first ray of light that touches the dawn. Genevieve called this the silent response of the universe. She said that when a desire is sealed in silence, the invisible begins to organize everything around it to make it real. But this answer doesn't come through words. It comes through signs, through synchronicities, through small deviations that seem like chance, but aren't, the inner echo. The first sign doesn't come from outside. It comes from within. It's a serene peace, almost inexplicable, as if the wish has already been fulfilled. Genevieve affirmed that this feeling is the vibrational confirmation. The heart feels before the eyes see. This profound calm is the purest sign that the universe has received the command. The sacred coincidences. Then, life begins to move. People cross your path in improbable ways. Words repeat themselves, numbers appear. Situations align. Genevieve taught that the universe speaks the language of coincidence, and that nothing is mere chance. She said, when the invisible begins to act, everything that seems random is, in fact, the path being revealed. Pay attention. What you call coincidence is, in fact, the answer in motion, the lightness in waiting. Another powerful sign is the absence of anxiety. Suddenly, desire no longer hurts, it doesn't weigh you down, it simply is. This lightness is the point where you stop searching and begin to vibrate in possession. This is where manifestation accelerates. Genevieve believed that the universe does not respond to force, but to silent trust. The more you let go, the faster reality reorganizes itself, the symphony of small miracles, and then the impossible begins to fall into place. An unexpected invitation, an opportunity, a subtle change, all orchestrated by an intelligence that never sleeps. The invisible becomes visible, and what was once only thought takes shape. Genevieve called this the silent symphony, where each event is a note played by the creative mind. And at that moment, you understand that you were never alone. You and the universe have always been the same consciousness, conversing through silence. This is the universe's answer, not in words, but in movements and resonances, and it can only be heard by those who have learned to silence the voice of fear. Genevieve said, the voice of the universe speaks in silence, and those who have learned to listen to the silence understand all things. Now that you know the signs of the invisible answer, you are ready for the last part. In the end, everything returns to the same point where it began. Silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence that pulsates, the one that exists before thought, before desire, before form. Genevieve Behrend understood that true manifestation doesn't happen when the world hears you, but when the universe senses your inner state, and it is in this silent state, where the mind rests and the heart trusts, that creative energy finds space to act. The sacred secret she taught was never in the words, but in the vibration behind them. Thought is the invisible brush, emotion, the color, and silence, the canvas where the universe paints reality. When you silence the noise of fear and doubt, you begin to hear the whisper of creation. And that whisper says, Everything you seek already exists within you. Breathe deeply now. Feel the silent force that moves your heart. It is the same force that moves the stars, the same one Genevieve touched when she dared to imagine the impossible. And if you felt this calling, this inner vibration that awakens something ancient and true, remember, nothing is a coincidence. You have been guided here by this same invisible energy. Subscribe to this channel. Allow yourself to walk ever deeper into this sacred knowledge, and continue awakening your own silent strength. Because the universe always responds to the silence of an awakened mind. Gratitude, and until the next video, let's go together on this journey of spiritual awakening.